So now we're at the sweet spot. If you look at it historically, if I go back to the dot-com era of the 1990s, as I mentioned, I started the Hollywood Stock Exchange in 1996. And then in 1997, I believe it was, when Netscape went public. And that was really the beginning of what the dot-com boom era was, when Netscape went public. Mark Andreessen, of course, was Netscape. And what did Mark Andreessen just do this week? He announced the public offering of Coinbase. And so this is really going to be like that 1997 moment for Bitcoin, where we go from the whole phase of, is it real, is it not real, like we saw on the internet in the 90s, to where it becomes absolutely ubiquitous. And the price from here is going to go a lot higher. Well, for 2021, my prediction is 220,000 per coin for 2021. And longer term, really, I say there is no top to Bitcoin because there's no bottom for fiat money. No fiat money in history has lasted. Over the past 300 years, they've all gone to zero or lost 99% of their purchasing power. As Voltaire once said, all fiat money returns to its intrinsic value of zero. No fiat money in the past 300 years has escaped going to zero. There's been hundreds of fiat money. The average lifespan of paper money is 27 years. None have survived. The British pound is still around, although it's no longer backed by silver or gold or anything like that. It is purely fiat. And so we can't really say it's been around for the 300 years, but even so, it's lost over 99% of its purchasing power. The US dollar has lost 98 to 99% of its purchasing power. All these other currencies, many hundreds of currencies going back 300 years, have all just been disappeared. They've all been erased from existence. They've all gone to zero. So that's a very strong trend. How anyone could look at that history and say, well, no, the dollar is going to survive. The dollar is worth something. When it's backed by nothing except the Pentagon, as Paul Krugman at the New York Times says, the US dollar is backed by men with guns. Well, guess what? The Pentagon, those guns, they cost a lot of money to keep it gassed up. You know how much it costs to keep the Pentagon at gassed up every day? The jets, the planes, the transportation, all that petrochemical. They spend $250 million a day. And oh, by the way, we just entered into a secular bull market for commodities. Oil is going up. All the prices of everything going up. So the Fed is like, oh, we're just going to print more. We're going to print more. We're going to print another 10 trillion, 15 trillion, 20 trillion. Well, and then we're going to all buy it all back and put it on our balance sheet again. We're going to monetize the debt. We're going to keep doing that. Okay, well, we already see inflation breaking out in the economy right now. People are noticing it. And it's only going to get worse. So you're going to see the next few months, food and energy is going to be up 30, 40, 50%. Your wages are not going to be flat. They're not going up. They're going to give more coupons, in the mail. I got this from today. The Nielsen company, they sent me a letter, and they put dollars in there. They just put money in there. They put $2 in there because it's worthless coupons. It's garbage, right? Anything can be used as money. People can use anything as money. In the past, you've used beads, you've used stones, we used gold. They've all been used as money. And as long as a lot of people use it as money, it becomes money. Okay, so now we've got a global community of 100 million now using Bitcoin. So the first point is that they use it as money. So they believe it's money. It is money because people use it as money. And that's the first point. In other words, money is whatever people think it is. Whatever the community decides it is, that's money. We know why gold has became money over time, because it has some great properties in that it has no entropy, right? I mean, an ounce of gold today will remain an ounce of gold for 100 years or 200 years. It's stable in this sense. It's portable, it's divisible, it's fungible, it's desirable, and it became money, and it pushed out all the other versions of it, like beads or whatever. It's scarce. Gold is scarce, relatively scarce. And so for 5,000 years, people used ultimately gold. Even the central banks that are using fiat money, they do settle between them in gold. So we understand why gold is money. It's scarce, it's portable, it's divisible, is desirable. And if we apply that to Bitcoin, it's absolutely scarce, unlike gold, which is only relatively scarce. Gold is inflating by 2 or 3% a year, so it's not actually as scarce as Bitcoin. It's more divisible. It's more portable. It's unconfiscatable, which gold doesn't have that property. Gold can get confiscated, and it's been confiscated in the past. In 1933, America's gold was confiscated by FDR and put in Fort Knox, right? So gold is confiscatable. Bitcoin is unconfiscatable. So the people who are against it are people who are completely vested in the system as it is now, in the status quo. So people like Nouriel Roubini or Peter Schiff or Paul Krugman of the New York Times, or the people at Davos, the people at the IMF, the people at the World Bank, who are wed to paper money, who are wed to the idea that the world should be centralized, that there should be a Politburo of authoritarian and authorities who making policy for everybody. And if you were to go against that, you're a heretic, and we're going to send in the Inquisition, and we're going to burn you at the stake. So it's very similar to what we saw during the medieval times. For example, when Copernicus was, suggesting that it's not the Earth at the center, but the sun, right? That was a direct assault on the Catholic Church and the power structures of that day, and it set off what we now know to become the Renaissance, and which became the Enlightenment. And Bitcoin is similar in that it's totally told the center of the elite world that their money printing fiat money central banks are not the be all and the end all. We've got something here that pushes you out. It's the first change in base layer money in 5,000 years. So they are like the priests of the church were not happy about it when they were shown up to be charlatans. The people, the elites now in the US and around the world are not happy that they're being shown up to be frauds, to be charlatans, that their philosophy is dead, their modus operandi is corrupt. So they're not happy about it. So we would want, if Bitcoin is going to be successful, it would have to attract the ire of the legacy system and the authoritarians who would be challenged by it, of course. So, but one by one they fall, and they come over to the side of Bitcoin. We've got 3 sitting Congress people in Washington now who are actively pro-Bitcoin. We've got Cynthia Lummis in Wyoming, who's a senator, who's a Bitcoiner. We've got 2 others in Washington who are now totally pro-Bitcoin. America now is starting to shift to be getting more pro-Bitcoin. So and this idea of government banning it, again, completely fallacious argument. Instead, what we're seeing is that governments are realizing they need to embrace Bitcoin to remain competitive. Yes. So they're not going to ban it. They're going to start mining it. They're going to start hoarding it because we're having what's similar to, let's say, a Sputnik moment when America entered the space race because the Soviets had put up a satellite in orbit. And then America said, we're going to land a man on the moon. Well, now you've got Iran, Russia, China, Kazakhstan, and several other countries are hoarding and mining Bitcoin. And America is going to look at that and say, wait a minute, do we want Iran to be the richest country in the world? No, we've got to start mining and hoarding Bitcoin right now. And it's got to be a hash race or a hash moment where America's got to start to get in the race here. Anybody